Hello and welcome to The Long Play, where we list some of the world's greatest albums. It's a bit like a book club, but there are no books. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. What you been up to?
I've been just working, really. But, me and you went to football last weekend, didn't we?
We did.
Went to see the mighty York City.
It was a bit of a stale 0-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Otherwise known as a draw.
Yeah.
To the fans out there. Come on, York City. Have they played since?
No. So they playing this weekend. In fact, a couple of weeks' time, there's a night game against Barnet, so maybe we should go because that's a big top-of-the-table clash.
Yeah, and let's face it, the Instagram followers will want all that York City content.
They absolutely will.
Come on, York City. How are you, listener? We hope this is reaching you on a fine morning, or any other time of day as well, to be fair. It's a fine morning in Yorkshire.
It is. We're caffeinated to the hilt.
What was the roaster that we been drinking? Is it Lot 61?
Yeah, Lot 61. I think from our friends at Dog and Hat.
Thank you very much, Dog
Still
and Hat.
Not a sponsored mention, but they are brilliant. So
Yes.
check them out if you want some good coffee in your life.
Yes. So this month we've been listening to
Hounds of Love.
I nearly said Wuthering Heights. That's not what I meant. We've been talking about that this morning before we came to record, which is why I nearly said that. But yes, how's your experience been?
Oh, I love this album, Tom. It's a remarkable album. I was a bit surprised by. I feel like Kate Bush was ubiquitous through my kind of teenage years growing up, and actually I was quite surprised to realise that she'd fallen off the radar really for a few years, and this was her comeback album, and it's just full of hits as well. I mean, she really came back strong, and she really came back with stuff that she was looking to do. She'd set up a production studio in a parents' house.
Right.
She had taken full responsibility for production. She'd been away for, I think, 3 years maybe. And a lot of speculation that she was just kind of finished.
Right.
And here she is with...
back swinging.
Yeah, I mean, certainly her most commercially successful album and one of the most critically acclaimed.
Which is an interesting point to be... because it's not particularly commercial.
No, well, I mean, obviously, as we said in the intro episode, it's split into two halves. You've got side A, which is titled The Hounds of Love, or Hounds of Love. And you've got side B, which is titled The Ninth Wave. And side A, Hounds of Love, is relatively commercial in Kate Bush's idiosyncratic way. But certainly side B is more experimental and more of a challenging listen. So, not so commercial. And it's quite a decision, really, to kind of pack all of the commercial stuff into one side.
Yes. It does an amazing job of doing what the 80s did, which was quite sort of, in parts, wacky music choices, and then taking it further.
Yeah.
I found it quite hard on the outset to get into. I actually found the side B, the more slightly wacky stuff, more approachable at first. And I think that
interesting.
I think that was because I knew that it was going to be pretty weird. I knew what her voice was like and the sort of quite wild, dramatic vocal performance. And I think because side B was sort of so experimental and a bit more concept-y, I just think I could kind of understand it in that context just a bit better. Like it just sort of made sense in that context. Whereas the first half, I just kept on going, these are pop songs. I feel like I'm being sort of constantly ripped away from what I sort of think of as pop song,
Yeah. I feel like, obviously, Running Up That Hill, the first track is a track that we all know and has had a recent resurgence as Kate Bush because of the use in Stranger Things and both.
And I count myself in that camp that I was reintroduced that song through that. And we talked a little about what the emotions of watching something that's connected to something on screen can do.
Yeah.
And I was really the use of that song in that show. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't. No, no.
I'd really recommend it. It's fantastic. Before season 5 comes out. I don't know which season they're on now. It's really good. But yes, the use of the song in that is just really, really great, and it does a wonderful thing.
Yeah. It's interesting that Saltburn did a similar thing for Murder on the Dance Floor, and it feels like, I mean, is this a new phenomenon that
a new what? Sorry.
Yeah, phenomenon.
I might keep that.
Is this is this a new thing? That, I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head, I can't think of other obvious examples where there's been such a kind of, a number one for Running Up That Hill, number one for Murder on the Dance Floor. I know number ones don't mean quite as much nowadays as they used to, but
sure.
They've certainly
I don't know if I can necessarily
reinvigorated
off the top of my head
those songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, I think actually if you'd asked me before listening to this album to name some Kate Bush songs, then Running Up That Hill, Hounds of Love, and Cloud Busting would have been in the,
and Wuthering Heights.
Oh, obviously. Would have been in the kind of 6 or 7 that I could name. I'd really like Man with Child in His Eyes, Wow, Babushka. There's the obvious, big hits. So to have them all crammed into that kind of verse bit, plus The Big Sky was also a single, although I don't really recall it. It's quite a choice to have it all come at you. So I guess I was really familiar with that, with her sound and with those, certainly those 3 of the first 5 tracks.
Yeah.
And I felt that therefore was more accessible for me.
Sure.
And it was the second half where it does get experimental and more challenging that it took me a while to appreciate. I think that's the nature of experimental and work. And one of the reasons, again, that we do the long play is to kind of break through the initial challenge of some of this music. And I think without the long play, I might have just listened to side A over and over again and never really, really appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple more challenging songs in the second half for sure.
Yeah.
Like ones that I just didn't resonate with as much. But I think Dream of Sheep is probably my favourite song on the album. It's so tender and so it's so delicately done.
Yeah,
and it's so beautiful. It's just really good. But yeah, I found that this album was a real grower on me. I only really started to appreciate it in the last week.
Right,
I found the first stretch of the month just every time I was putting it on, I was like, this is just always feels like a bit of a sort of tough listen. But then slowly, and it sort of, maybe that's why she called it the 9th wave, because on the 9th listen, he starts to get it.
Yeah.
I did feel like I was sort of being submerged and sort of finding more in the sort of soundscapes that she's creating and the sound design and all of it. And I mean, I wanted big drums and we got it. Wanted big synths, we got it.
Yeah.
I wrote down quite a lot about the synthesizer that was used.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it. That's what we're here for.
So the Fairlight CMI, which was made in 1979 in Australia. I don't know if you've looked at pictures of it. It's pretty, like, we're talking sort of massive, like tower computer size unit, which I think's got about 3 switches on it. And then a massive monitor that goes with that. And then like a keyboard computer.
Yeah.
And then a keyboard.
I mean, it's tried to say it, but you could do all of this on your phone so much better nowadays. Yeah.
But then you can't. Like these things, I think it's at an estimated value of these things between $15,000 and $115,000.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
We were talking a bit before, and we were talking about, what the sound of the 80s, or at least what this does really well.
Yeah.
People are really trying to capture what that did just anyway.
Yeah.
It's really hard to create that authentically now.
Yeah.
because all the gear's broken.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, that synth was one of the first samplers which was
Yeah.
used where you could record yourself and then play it back. You know, we hear a bit of, I think, some of the noises that would have been used, like the broken glass and stuff like that in the second half of the album.
Very 80s.
Yeah, I wonder if, you know, other bits of, you know, there's the voice which is used in Drown the Witch.
Wake the Witch.
Wake the Witch.
Yeah.
Me getting mixed up with,
Yeah.
oh no, Burn the Witch is the Radiohead song, but we'll come on to them later.
Yeah, there must be a Drown the Witch somewhere.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You know, the altered voice in that.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to know how they did that.
We were saying before as well, I've just been listening to a podcast called Transmissions, which is about Joy Division and New Order. And again, they were at that kind of New Order were at that cutting edge of that new equipment. Mm-hmm. And a lot that gives, you know, they specifically say that mistakes that they made and challenges with the equipment what gives some of their, you know, most famous songs like Blue Monday the kind of character. Yeah, as you say, it's difficult to recreate.
It's a very well known sort of trope in creativity that, you know, when you give yourself limitations,
constraints.
Yeah, you find a way through, and it's those things which sort of force you into finding new ways to think about stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, so it was used on. That synthesizer was used on songs like Sledgehammer, Thriller as well.
Yeah.
And it became so ubiquitous that in 1985, Phil Collins wrote on the sleeve of his album, "No Jacket Required. There is no Fairlight on this record," which is in the same year that, you know, Kate Bush released this. So a bit of shade from Phil Collins there.
But I mean, you know, you mentioned Sledgehammer, and certainly she was really influenced by Peter Gabriel, and they spent a lot of time, and obviously they released a song together as well.
Yes.
But they were kind of worked together quite a bit, and she, I think the first time she saw some of this equipment was with Peter Gabriel.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think he was the first user of one.
Yeah.
Commercially at least.
Yeah.
But it was named after when the I think they're two Australian fellas who made it.
Right. Mr. Fair and Mr. Light.
Well, no, I think a hydrofoil went past them as they were making it.
Right.
And I think that maybe was what it was called, and that's why they named it. So there you go.
Very good synth facts.
Yeah, well, you know, I thought it would be a bit fun because it comes up a lot.
Yes.
When reading about the album, that it was, you know, I mean, she got someone in to like program it.
Yeah.
Like it was a back in the days when you had to have one person who could just do that thing.
Yeah.
You know, someone who knew how to work the computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen a picture of it, I mean, if you want a throwback, go and have a look.
Yeah.
It's real piece of 80s history.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, we were talking about the Ninth Wave, which is the name of the second side, and that is a kind of concept album. Mm-hmm. In that it's inspired by a story of somebody lost at sea, and that, you know, Dream of Sheep is
specifically
most obvious.
A woman, right?
Yeah. And I think it works as such as well. Yeah, I think there's bits that are not obviously part of the story, but then if you kind of listen to interviews with Kate, she'll say, you know, she'll kind of place them in her overall concept.
I think I understood. I understood the second half of the album as a thing much more when I'd read about it.
Yeah. What, within the mid-month missives, Tom?
I did, actually.
Yeah,
which brings us neatly on to talking about the mid-month missives.
Yeah, so halfway through the month, we send out a newsletter with some links and interviews and videos and reviews.
And it's got a new format. It
has got a new format. We're now on Substack. So
Paul's flexing his English skills.
Yes, so you can go to thelongplaypod.substack.com and you'll find us there. If you want to subscribe to those. But there'll be links, as ever, in the show notes.
Yes, but it's really great. Again, Paul's doing stellar work. And I looked through the review of the album, obviously by someone who I think is a fan as well. And it very, very eloquently talks about, and, you know, has intersected snippets of interviews with Kate Bush talking about it. But if you haven't read about the second half of the album, I'd really urge you to go and read a bit about it. Maybe on the link that's on the mid-month missives, and then go back and listen to the second half.
Yeah,
because it creates a very different image about it all. You know, and as well the video of her in the water.
Yeah,
I don't know how recent that was actually.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but I think it was in the 2000s at least.
Yes.
So it's
but of her sort of in the water with a life jacket on, singing "Dream of Sheep."
Yeah.
And it's very evocative, very moving. But the idea that the person who's stranded in the water falls asleep at the end of that song, and the rest is all a sort of dreamscape, is really interesting.
Yeah.
I certainly found myself much more moved by the second half, as opposed to being like, wow, this is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being on that sort of wild caper.
Yeah. Well, 85 was, we're going to kind of return to our theme of I'm much older than Tom, but I was 16 in 85. So Tom, tell us what was happening when I was turning 16.
Okay, so the wreck of the Titanic was found. Which is cool.
Yeah.
The inaugural WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden.
Great. Who was involved in the I can't speak today. It's not good for a podcast host, is it? Inaugural WrestleMania.
Hulk Hogan and Mr. T were on the same team.
Amazing.
Which is pretty cool. Studio Ghibli was founded in Tokyo.
Great. That's actually younger than I thought. I thought it might predate that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, so that was, I don't know what their first movie was, actually.
No.
One to look at afterwards. The NES was released.
Oh, yeah.
The Nintendo Entertainment System. Is that what it stands for?
Mm-hmm.
And DNA was first used in a criminal case.
Oh.
Yes. And that was some of the things that happened in 1985.
Good facts.
Can you tell me who won the league?
I'm not sure, but I know that York beat Arsenal in the FA Cup that year, so that was a big day in the history of the Minster men.
Nice.
And I've got a feeling Arsenal might have been reigning champions, so maybe Liverpool? No?
No. But you're in the right neck of the woods.
Am I? Everton?
Everton
won
the league.
With the mighty Howard Kendall.
I'll take your word for it.
As manager. Yeah, what a great guy Howard was.
And the FA Cup?
Well, it wasn't Arsenal, was it? No. Was it Liverpool?
No. Same neck of the woods, but not Everton.
I mean, Man U?
Yeah. United won the FA Cup.
Maybe Norman Whiteside. Was that year? Possibly.
I don't know. I was -5.
I'm going to look it up whilst you fill, Tom.
Well, I'll vamp. Or I'll fill it with a jingle. But yes, those are some of the things that were happening in 1985.
United won by a single goal scored in extra time by Norman Whiteside. I was right.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. The 85 Cup final. Excellent. Tom, we were talking about what your favourite song on the album was, and you said that maybe "Dream of Sheep" is yours, and you were asking me, and I think it might be "Mother Stands for Comfort," but it does remind me. Last year watched, like everybody did, Succession on the TV.
Oh yeah,
and every time a different character came on the TV, I thought, they're my favourite character. It was one of those where they were so well written, that if anybody asked you who your favourite character was, it was just whoever happened to be on screen at that time.
No, it's Tom, definitely.
Well,
well written. Tom and Greg's bromance, too good.
And I feel that way about this album. My favourite song just moves around so much.
Yes, I'd second that. I do think "In Dream of Sheep" is probably my number one, and interesting as well how Hello Earth, when she is in the story sort of saved, is really a sort of mirror of that song. which was quite interesting. But yes, I think Mother Stands for Comfort is also a very close second for me. It's the bass line, so unusual. Her sort of swooping vocals and slightly sort of swooping bass line, double bass, I think it is.
Right.
I certainly knew it was fretless, but it's a double bass. It's it's unusual. It's very cool. But there's a similar bass line in the second half, which does a sort of similar thing.
Right.
I can't remember which track it's on. But,
I think. It's Roman, by the way. If you wanted to know actually who's the best character in Succession.
Oh, nah.
But I think going into this album, I think that Cloudbusting may have been if somebody had asked me, what's your favourite Kate Bush song, I might have said Cloudbusting.
Okay.
Having listened to the album, then there's 3 or 4 tracks that I think I prefer to it now.
I don't think Cloudbusting for me was. I really like what the drums were doing on that. Similar to Running Up That Hill, the sort of dun 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 dun. I really like that. But yes, I do think my favourite songs are on the second half. I think. I think we were talking as well a bit about. It was interesting doing the Bruce Springsteen album, and this one back to back.
Yeah.
2 very dramatic albums.
Yeah, I feel like
opposite ends of the drama spectrum.
I feel like I said last month that it's the melodrama that I just don't like, and that here we are.
Yeah, but this isn't melodrama.
No,
this is the tights and roll neck of the music world.
This is very much my cup of tea.
Yeah, this is taking itself very seriously. In what it's doing.
Well, now again, I was criticising Springsteen for having no sense of humour. I mean, I feel like,
But maybe it's unfair to say that Bruce Springsteen isn't taking himself seriously. Because, I think maybe that's a bit of a leap to say that he isn't.
Yeah.
But it certainly, it feels like the story is very big and quite sort of, then we're talking about someone, being drowned, lost at sea. Yeah, so I don't know. They do feel slightly twinned and also at opposite ends of the spectrum, but whilst being very similar and also very different at the same time.
I think that's exactly right. I think all the things that I really didn't like about Born to Run, I really like about this album, even though, as you say...
Maybe you need to go back and listen to Born to Run again.
Yeah, maybe.
You can tell us
right.
after another month.
I think that's a great way to describe it. They're kind of twinned, but opposite ends of the spectrum. It's... exactly. So, I loved it. I loved the final track as well. Is it called The Morning After?
Morning Fog.
Morning Fog, correct. It just feels like The Morning After, and it does. It just lifts everything, doesn't it? It's like that. It may be not my favourite track, but just the tone, that kind of feeling of just being lifted and, everything clearing.
I think, again, going back to the sort of story of the second half, I think it really does do that thing of, like, even if you weren't listening to the lyrics... because the lyrics are slightly more obscure, the sort of the tone and the sentiment of how it feels, I feel, does make you sort of almost slip under the water, and then come back out at the end. Like, you do kind of get that journey. That's
remarkable, though, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
and one of the reasons why I think it's obviously she's a real master.
Yeah, and also one of the great samples of the 80s with Utah Saints sampling Cloudbusting for their hit Something Good. Yeah. It's she's very influential. It's amazing to kind of hear how influential she is. So those of you who will have read the mid-month missives will have kind of read that she worked with Prince on the Red Shoes, a future album. But also, I was listening to a great podcast with Big Boy from Outkast, who absolutely loved Kate Bush and grew up with Kate Bush. His uncle kind of introduced him to it. And it's amazing to kind of see how broad her influence has been. And there's a great quote in there as well from Elton John saying that at his wedding, where all these stars came to his wedding, and Kate Bush came and on Elton John's big day. He was overshadowed by Kate Bush because everybody just wanted to talk to her. Yeah, it's I don't whether I guess it's very typical Elton John just being kind of nice and but I think there's an element of truth there that she's such an influential superstar for in the music world.
And Paul, just to tie up, how many Paul Smiths do you give Hounds of Love?
So this is right up there. I think it's an 8 for me. Yeah, I'm going an 8.
I'm giving it an 8 as well, I think it really interestingly, like a week ago, I don't think I would have scored it an 8.
Right.
But it's really crept up on me. And I think of all the albums that we've listened to so far, I don't think I'm quite done with this one.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to keep on sort of exploring.
Great.
I didn't do that much headphone listening this month. Everything else has been on sort of...
I feel like the Ninth Wave
various systems
particularly rewards a bit of headphone listening.
Yeah, and I think that's why I don't feel like I'm quite done. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing that.
Maybe we'll come back to rescore it at some point if you've hit 8 and you might still be going up.
Hey,
who knows?
So yes, I give it 8 Paul Smiths. So yes, so thank you so much for listening. Do feel like you can get in touch with us and let us know what you thought of Hounds of Love. You can find us on our Instagram at the Long Play Pod.
Yeah,
we've got a new website.
We have. You can find that at thelongplay.uk, and you can subscribe to the mid-month missives on our Substack, thelongplaypod.substack.com, and all the links, as ever, will be in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thank you very much for your work on the mid-month missives.
No worries.
It's great stuff. But that leaves me with no further ado but to say thank you so much. Keep listening, and remember,
no skipping,
no shuffling.